This project was led by Steve Cove, who lives in Millom, Cumbria, where the mountains come down to the sea. He's a member of the Duddon Valley Local History Group. The River Duddon rises near the centre of the Lake District and flows down the valley to its estuary near his home. William Wordsworth chose the River Duddon in 1820 as the subject of his set of 33 sonnets, using the progress of the river to match the stages of a life from childhood to old age. It was this work that brought a provincial poet to national prominence, though he faced criticism for not having chosen a better known river. The whole group have organised a series of projects since 2006, which included a detailed survey of the whole valley, an investigation to longhouses, and an archaeological dig over 3 summers. The latest venture is to survey a special set of sheepfolds. You don't have to travel far on the Lakeland Fells, you might call them mountains, to become aware of the importance of sheep and the dry stone walls designed for keeping them in some enclosures and keeping them out of others. Herdwicks are our famous breed in the Lake District, known for their hardiness and ability to live outside on high ground in all weathers. You can think of them as homing sheep because the lambs are heafed or hefted, old words that explain the lamb's ability to recognise the area in which they were born and grew up in. They don't wander far from this area. After foot and mouth, miles of fencing had to be erected to re-establish the hefting for the first new generations. We have identified a total of 45 folds that are close by the beck. That's a stream or a burn in other parts of the UK. There had to be a natural pool or a dub or a place where it's possible to dam the flow. Often the edge of the pool would have had stone revetments or earth banks to create a suitable depth where a shepherd could wash his flock in June before shearing. This site is at Washfold Point. Cumbria archives have records going back to the 1650s that refer to sheep salving and washing. Old maps mark places as a washfold, a sheep wash, or a wash dub. But why did they need to wash the sheep? In autumn, the fell sheep were salved. A mixture of tar and fat was rubbed into the skin along a strip where the fleece had been parted. Then a new strip was parted and each further along, and again, taking perhaps 40 to 50 minutes until the animal was completely waterproofed and protected from diseases and parasites for the winter. In June, the farmers had to make a decision before clipping their sheep. A fleece was brought by weight. A greasy fleece got a lower price per pound but weighed more than a clean one. A clean fleece weighed less but was worth a higher price per pound. The deciding factor was usually that it was easier to shear a clean sheep. Some washfolds were in remote locations high on the fells, well away from any farm. Some washfolds were close by the roadside, visible to passing cyclists and cars. The washfolds often featured a driving or gathering wall that helped to collect the flock and direct the animals into the chamber. Notice the vertical shard walling in the chamber. A narrow opening in the washing chamber allowed the shepherd to stand on the specially built launching stone to drop one animal at a time into the water. Some washfolds only had a single chamber. Many had 2, some had a lot more. A couple of washfolds had more than 6 chambers with no indication of how they would have been used. This site is on Washdub Beck. Several chambers would allow sorting of a larger flock. The lambs were not washed and strays from neighbouring flocks could be separated. A hog horn in the wall, flanked by a larger stone, was a way of releasing the animals that were not going to be washed. Some washfold pools were filled by water flows that were barely more than a trickle. 3 washfolds used the River Duddon itself. There was another near Cellar and a third lower down the river close to the Duddon Bridge. Some pools were naturally deep. Some pools required a natural or man-made bank along with a dam to create a pool. In preparation for the washing, the pool might be deepened with a simple dam to raise the water level sufficiently so the animals could be fully immersed. The dam may have been stones and turf, or just an old door wedged across the narrowing of a beck. Some washfolds had shelves built into the walls where the shepherd could keep everything that he needed for the washing process. Often helpers would be in the pools supporting and washing the animals one at a time. Other helpers might be on the bank with long poles to do the washing in the dry. Barrels with stones in the bottom were sometimes used, too, for the washers to stand in and keep themselves a bit drier. Prints from both old and new Ordnance Survey maps, along with aerial shots from Google, preceded the survey visits. 4 teams measured and photographed the sites. The information was used to make the drawings and assemble data sheets for the group's web pages. Despite previous records identifying a site as a washfold, we found evidence of use for sheep washing was poor in some cases. This was generally because there was no simple and straightforward way to get the sheep from the fold to the beck. Old ways became obsolete by the time of the First World War, after chemical dips had been introduced to replace the labour-intensive salving and washing of the earlier years. The first dips contained arsenic, and from the 1950s they used organophosphates. There is plenty of literature on their impacts on farmers. The old wash dub practice may not have been as effective, but it was certainly kinder to the farmer and to the environment. How are the washfolds doing after some 120 years? Some are no more than a line of stones in the vegetation. Some have had exits to the pools blocked up with new walling to make containment folds, but the launching stone is still in place. Some are still complete and in good condition. Some washfolds are now completely choked with bracken or rushes. Water passing all but one of our washfolds ends up joining the sea in the Duddon estuary. Wordsworth's final words on the River Duddon are in Sonnet 33. For backward, Duddon, as I cast my eyes, I see what was, and is, and will abide. Still glides the stream, and shall forever glide. Thank you to Julia Parks for recording this commentary.